God would not accept who you are, that is the most hurtful thing that anyone can hear. More the hurtful than some person says to XYZ, because you can at least ignore it because you know that person. But
100%.
God, and this is most hurtful. And it's hard for a person like you, a person who's a seeker. And I remember there was this person, I would not like to name him for obvious reasons. So he was a man, okay, like born male, and he was like born like, as he growed up he became gay. So he, like, not here but became gay. And he used to go to church. He was the same community, like the evangelist, he was from the same community. So Gazit Chaya, welcome. I hope so I said that right. Welcome to Zest to Live. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling so excited to be with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited, for this conversation today, and I think we'll get into so many things today about life and why, like, life is. I think a lot of philosophical and big questions we'll get into. But everybody starts at the one place in everybody, and means everybody is their childhood. You know, one is someone has a really dreamy childhood one can dream of, or one has a really traumatic one. But I want to know about, where did your childhood started, and what was that like, and what led you to become what you are today, like that coaching and all of that you do today. What was your childhood like?
Well, I was really lucky in a sense because my family of origin was very involved in religion. And so, in one sense, it was really helpful because I think I'm a naturally a seeker, a spiritual seeker. And so it connected me right away with concepts and stories, very mystic stories that really excited me. And it was evangelical Christianity, which is a very certain kind of Christianity. And so with the exposure to mysticism and spirituality, there was also a lot of training around like religious dogma, rules, and a lot of rigidity there. And when I was young, I would have described that as like traumatic, right? Because there were so many ways that I was wrong according to those religious rules. And for a good 20 years of my life, I really struggled with that pain around being something that was wrong according to, at that time, my understanding was it was wrong according to God. But the interesting progression of that was that through that really tight constriction of those rules, it was almost like when someone is born and they have to go through, that really tight canal to come out into freedom. It allowed me to realize like God, or whatever you want to call that big source, is so much more expansive than any set of rules any person could make. So I actually am so glad that I was raised that way.
So that what you mean, what I can understand, that it gave you, that most of the kids, it gave you a lot of freedom that most of the kids don't have in their childhood, is that, and you had that, what I can believe. So I could say you could be yourself and say and do whatever you wanted to do. You were not stopped. Is that what I'm getting?
Well, I was stopped. Until it wasn't until I left the religion that I was really free to do what I wanted. But what I was saying more was that because I was so confined for so long and thought there was something wrong with me for so long and associated that with God. And this specifically, for me, the journey was about being queer. In terms of my sexuality and my gender. So I was told very clearly by my community of origin that that was unacceptable and that God would be disgusted by me, which was horribly painful at the time because I loved God. I loved the idea of connecting with a spirit, with something more meaningful than just the day to day, with something bigger than me. And so, yeah, for the first, I'd say 30 years of my life, my heart was really broken around that. Um, and what that journey gave me was the ability to claim my connection with divinity outside of a set of rules or what other people say, which is the biggest freedom that you could reach for in this life. So, in a way, it was the perfect training, to allow me to release into that freedom and not be dependent on what other people think.
You know, being cure, anytime in society has never been easy, if I have to use that word very honestly. Anywhere, it does not matter if you are anywhere in any part of the world, you are discriminated in a lot of ways. You're judged, and it's okay. I mean, people can take judgment sometimes. If you're a strong person, you can take judgment from the people, ignore them, you can do so many things. But when it comes to your personal relationship with God, and specifically if you're spiritual, and you're told that your God would not accept who you are, that is the most hurtful thing that anyone can hear, more the hurtful than some person says to XYZ, because you can at least ignore it because you know that person. but
100%.
but God, and this is most hurtful. And it's hard for a person like you, a person who's a seeker. And I remember there was this person, I would not like to name him for obvious reasons. So he was a man, okay, like born male, and he was like born like, as he grew up he became gay. So he, like, not here but became gay. And he used to go to church. He was the same community, like the evangelist, he was from the same community. And he used to go to church, and he had such a fire for the Lord, such a fire which we used in America, the fire for Lord, to worship him, to be with him. And there was this friend who was a straight guy, and he was talking, telling me that this guy, he turned gay, and he openly admitted that I'm gay, and he was casted out of the church. And he said, like, how long will I hide this? If God has to accept me, he has to accept me for who I am. I cannot lie. I can lie to others people, but how can I lie to him that this is me?
Yeah.
I mean, you are lying to yourself, that means you're lying to him. That's what
Yeah.
I can get.
Yeah.
And the very moment it was casted out, and people are so narrow-minded in Christianity, the evangelist and all of these people, they are so narrow-minded, not even conservative, those are more idiot. But they're so narrow-minded that they cannot see that this is another beauty of the existence. It's not bad to be straight, nor it's bad to be queer. It's just another part of so many layers that the universe has created. It's like the rainbow, right? So many colors, right? One is a straight, one is a queer, one is something, and that makes it beautiful. If just world was two genders, wouldn't it be fun? Now there is a community like yours too, might be small, but it is a good. But what was your reaction when you were told? I mean, I want to understand from a broader perspective. When you
Hmm.
left it, like, what happened after that? I'm trying to understand
Yeah.
how did your relationship with God transform because of your being cured?
Whew, it was such a long process. When I first realized that I was attracted to all people and not just men as I was supposed to, being assigned female at birth, I, as soon as I realized it, I said, okay, this is my cross to bear, which is a phrase that is used in evangelical Christianity about like some form of suffering that's supposed to make you grow closer to Christ, right? And so I thought, okay, this is my suffering that I've been asked to bear in this lifetime, and I will just deny it. And I planned to live as a missionary and just go to another country and never have, a romantic relationship or anything. And I just plan to hide it. And I tried to so hard. I went all the way until I was about 22. And it was about, I was wanting to die the whole time. I was, fantasizing about suicide. But I also knew that suicide was going to send me to hell. So I felt really stuck. Suicide, according to Christianity, would send you to hell. Now I don't believe that at all. Um, So I was constantly going between these, my life was just hell pretty much. And I was working so hard to deny this. And I ended up my senior year of college living with basketball players, women's basketball players, who it's a big stereotype that most women's basketball players are gay or queer. And so I was with all these really openly gay women, and it was like in my face all of the time. And I just became so suicidal. I mean, I lived at the cliffs of the ocean, and I would go and sit on the cliff and just every night think about jumping off. It was torturous. And I would drive up into the mountains just sobbing for hours all night long. I mean, I was just miserable. And I finished that year and I went to live in New Orleans with a special program where I was teaching at a school. And again, all the people in my program were really openly queer people. And I was like, what
And
is
you were
going
not
on?
doing like, you were not selecting them, they were just coming, like it's just the
Yes.
existence giving it, and you were not,
Yes.
you.
I was like trying to avoid them. But the funny story is the day that I got to New Orleans, this woman came up to me and she said, okay, the LGBTQ like historical tour of New Orleans is at 4 o'clock. So we'd love to see you there. And I was like, why? Why would I come? I'm not interested in that. I don't, why are you talking to me? And the two people who were sitting with me were like, well, you're gay, right? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? They're like, you're the most clearly queer person we've ever met. Like I was screaming that I was, queer
Without
without
saying
saying
anything,
anything.
you were, you know, they
Yeah.
knew, and you were trying to hide it, suppressing
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
but when was that moment, that with that comment, the hammer moment, when you said,
Yeah.
okay, this is it, this
Yeah.
is it? What was that
So
moment?
it was around close to Christmas, and one of my friends said, you need to just come out. You can't do this anymore. I had told one or two people, and they said, listen, there's nothing wrong with you. It's totally okay, and it's just your small community that thinks there's something wrong with you, and you can have a beautiful life. You really need to tell your family. So I tried telling my sister, and she offered, in her perspective, what she thought was a really loving support. And she offered to have me go to this mental health facility to be cured or to have the gay taken out of me, which is called conversion therapy. And it's something that is done all over the world, and that many people are working hard to make illegal because it is really damaging to individuals. Um, but I was so heartbroken at that response that I decided their lives would be ruined if I came out, and that my life would be ruined if I didn't come out. And so I decided to overdose, and I was unconscious for 11 hours, and some friends found me and took me to the hospital, and they tried to pump my stomach, but they couldn't because it had been too long. And I had a near death experience. I had died, and somehow I was ripped back into this planet. And I was horrified to wake up in the hospital. It was the like being sentenced to prison, because I had been so relieved in this beautiful whatever it is where I went when I died. It was so extraordinary, and it was such freedom and such relief. And then I woke up in the hospital with all the lights and the beeping and everything. And I went through several years. They diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder and with bipolar disorder. And they put me on a bunch of psychiatric medication before I
What is
even
a
was conscious.
borderline, what you mentioned? What is that? I know the other one, but
Borderline, yeah, borderline personality disorder is a disorder that is become they're understanding it to be more of a result of
Welcome to Luvo. This is your home screen, giving you access to all features like steps counter, water intake, mood check, heart rate, sleep, and gratitude. You can also monitor your steps, heart rate, and sleep by connecting the app with your smartwatch. Experience live meditation, yoga, and healthy eating, all of which is coming soon. Download our free app and start living your best life.
Complex PTSD. But there are still communities that diagnose people as borderline personality disorder. My belief is that it's just a result of long-standing childhood trauma, but it ends up being a person who is oftentimes suicidal, oftentimes self-harming, who has a really difficult time in relationships. And they diagnosed me with that and bipolar before I even gained consciousness. So it wasn't based on anything other than the fact that I had tried to kill myself. Um, but when I woke up, I was on antipsychotics, antidepressants, anti anxiety, and lithium, which, if you know anything about any of those medications, like one of those will make you a zombie. But I was on all four. And I, 2.5 years, was on those medications, and I only have like a handful of memories. So I was basically living, but not living. And I believe a miracle happened where I decided to come off those medications. And now I've been told if you come off those medications on your own without going to the hospital, like you get so sick and maybe even have a life threatening something happen. But somehow I lived through it. I remember being like lying on the ground, sweating and shaking, just like in the rehab movies when people come off of drugs. It was awful, but it was a miracle because then I started the very long journey of realizing that at first I tried to deny spirituality and say there's no God and life is meaningless and I'm just stuck here. But little by little by little, through many, many hardships, especially a really heartbreaking divorce, um, I had to face that I am here. And now I believe I'm here for a reason. And I am doing my best every day to make meaning out of it and to give hope to other people to not give up.
That's a lot of information there, but so much of like you covered, and it must be not be easy to speak about it. I maybe now you're used to it. You've been in many places, but it's not easy, right? When it only the ones who have faced they know. You can imagine, okay, oh, but the moment you face it, you will realize because people don't know until they have such experience themselves. It's all
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
But my question goes back to, because you were talking about that moment when you overdose and you tried to kill yourself, obviously, but didn't die, thankfully. And that time you had a NDE, that means the near death experience. So can you talk about that a little bit to the listeners? What was, because I think that as I can see on your face, it must have been very transformative. To this day, you
Mm.
might think that was the moment, that was the aha
Mm.
moment, which,
Mm-hmm.
so tell me a little bit about that.
Ah, there, words are so weak to describe it, but I'm so grateful because I could go there in any moment now. It was, uh, at first I was confused because it was a blackness. Everything was dark, but now I've read, a beautiful book by Eben Alexander about his near death experience. And he's a neuroscientist. And so he has really studied this. And there is a black realm that like exists in these like levels of whatever is outside of
Dimensions.
this. Yes, yes. So I was in the black light, is what he calls it. And it was very I knew that I was everything. It was one of those, like, experiencing the oneness of everything. I knew that there was no good or bad. There was no one who, I knew that there was no possibility of being separated from anything, including divinity or God. Like, that's impossible. Um, I was gigantic. Like, I was the entire universe,
No limit. You
no
were the
limits.
infinite.
Yeah. And ever expanding. Like, it just, this is the motion of it. Just out, 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 out. And um, there was no like grandiosity, but there was also no like inferiority. It was just,
You.
yeah,
There was, and also I like to make it clear, and I know what you're talking about, but it's there was just you in that infinite blackness, and there was no sense of any God or any external entity, but still you could feel a sense of something more there that was just not you, but only you were there. And you were so grand. You were so grand. It was so blissful that anyone can risk anything for it.
yeah,
That is that experience, and
yeah,
you had the feeling. What was the feeling? That is just you. That the thought of this, and that was the only feeling, nothing else, and you were completed. There was no desire to anything else. This is the
yeah,
ultimate ecstasy. And it's hard to, because the words sounds words. We could talk about the apple and say then this apple tastes like this, but until you tasted it, there is no way to describe that blissfulness that you had in that NDE. And that is a very surprising, because most people have so different kind of NDE experience, and your one is not really the NDE experience. It's more like that enlightenment experience kind of a thing,
yeah,
rather than NDE, because NDE is mostly, what I have heard, and you must have researched about it. It's people see themselves,
right,
or they see some
yeah,
other beings or something like that, and most of
yeah,
the cases it is their mind playing with them,
yeah,
because they are inherently alive. But
yeah,
your case, it is not that. It is very different, and it
yeah,
is very spiritual rather than some NDE in that
yeah,
sense, not of a mind. And
yeah,
that has changed you, that has
yeah,
transformed you, because that showed you that there is
totally,
something more than this meaningless mundane life. There
yeah.
is a much much more bigger dimension.
It was, for a number of years, I questioned it because it is so different from so many NDEs. But like I said, the account from Evan Alexander really was so validating because he described it exactly how I experienced it. And I know that there's, like we said, you can't, unless you know it, you can't describe it. So having him describe it like that, it was so validating. But I was really lucky because I have a like a longing for that place. I really miss it. I want to go back. I would much prefer to be there than here. And when my child, who's now 12 years old, when my child was born, I got to go back for a little while because I was going in and out of consciousness when I was in labor. And it was, I think my kiddo was there coming in, right? And I got to go meet up and be there. We got to be there together and then come back here together. And it was even more beautiful that time because there was colors that time. Like, have you ever seen a picture of a nebula,
Yes,
like
yes.
an exploding star?
Yes, in that, like the in the snowy nebula you would talk about the color, right?
Yeah, it's like purples and
Yes, yes, yes.
blues and yellows and
But
oranges.
how did your child, like, okay, you talked about yourself, but your child never went unconscious like that. So how he did he, like, or was this just like
Well, I think that, through the birth process, maybe we were both, I maybe my child was coming into consciousness as a being born human and was still connected. I don't know for sure. And obviously, we'll never know what my child experienced because it was pre-verbal, and pre-memory. But I was, all of the nurses came into the hospital room because I was dancing and I was singing and I was having like an ecstatic experience and I was having the contractions and they were like,
so they
what
they
is
thought
going
you're going
on?
crazy. They thought you're
Yeah.
going crazy.
they didn't know what was happening because they never saw somebody do that before. Usually people are crying and screaming and in pain. And it was 10 hours of me singing and dancing, and I was climbing all over
This
the
was
room
when, like, when your child,
when
like,
I was
after.
in labor, like having the baby, the
Wow.
contractions. And I felt like I was giant. And then I went back to the blackness, but there was the nebula there, and I was the expanding, but even bigger. And and I
It
was
was
I
more
was
vivid. It was more
uh
vivid. It was
and
more vivid.
because I think I was still kind of conscious, so I was just ecstatic. You know that word ecstatic, when it's like
Yes,
the
yes.
spiritual joy. It's like an orgasm is like this, and this is like
So how long was that? Like, I'm not talking about the NDE, but this one which you're
yeah,
describing. How long was that experience, basically? Like, in vividly,
like
how was
10
long?
hours.
10 hours, like off and on, or like constantly?
Pretty pretty it was like I was seeing two things. So I could see the room sometimes because the nurses kept coming and saying, "Look at this, look at what they're doing, what is going on," and getting their other nurse friends to come look at me. And they were taking a video of me. I have a video of it, and I'm like, "This is so amazing, I'm so happy." Like I was like singing, dancing, climbing up on the furniture, and like, you know that word exaltation, exalting, like it felt like that. Like, and everyone was shocked and confused. And I was in labor for 26 hours, but it was like 10 hours of it was sort of simultaneously happening. I would be in the uh I don't know what, the universe, and then I would be in the room, and then I'd say like, "You don't even know, this is so amazing," and then I'd be in the it was
You know,
just
and
amazing.
these experience just took you far to believe that there is so much more that has been. And this is a gift. This is a
Yeah.
gift, and this just proves that the existence does not worry if you're a Hindu, Christian, or a gay or not gay. It does not care about that, because these are small labels, and the universe is
Yeah.
so big and vast
Yeah.
that is not worry. It only cares
Yeah.
about you, not
Yeah.
what you are. In that
Yeah.
sense, it
Yeah.
just accepts you the way you are. And this
Yeah.
is the ultimate truth, that you know it or not know it, that's up to you. You can be narrow minded, and those narrow minded people never get a glimpse of true love. Forget God, that is even far away. Not even glimpse of true love. They are so narrow minded. And the people who are very open, they are the ones who experience significant transformation, because they are open to existence beauty. And it is always singing, it is always dancing, it is a joy, it is a play that has to be understood in its
Yeah.
grandeur. We
Mm.
have to understand, not a conservative thought that this is how it should be, because that means you are trying to control it to be
Yeah.
in a certain way, and you cannot control it. You are so small, you think you will run the universe, because their thought process is, this is how the world should be, this is how the Bible says it should be, this is how the Quran or the this book says it should be. That is their thought. The existence of the universe does not function according to their thoughts or their opinions. It does not care. So anyway, we let's change the topic to something else, and it is even more important because a lot of people didn't have that experience. They are on
Mm.
that journey. Maybe
Mm.
you and I had some experiences, but let's talk about something else which they
Yeah.
are on that journey.
Yeah.
You put this emphasis on radical acceptance and absolute, which I can see on your face, that innocence.
Yes.
And it is intriguing, right? It is intriguing that how did you arrive at these guiding principles, and how do they share your approach to life, and why is it important for somebody who's on a journey?
Thank you for asking that. So, the gift that I was talking about of my upbringing, having so much focus on guilt and non acceptance, right, was the perfect training for me to be able to say, when I had these experiences of being one with everything, of being one with divinity, and seeing that, like you said, there is nothing we can do that could separate us from that. It's absolutely impossible. There's nothing to separate from. And so being able to contrast those two and say, oh, that it can't be any guilt. That's not possible. There can't be any non-acceptance in this uh expansive oneness that can't be. You can't have a rule. You can't have a you and me. You can't have a right and wrong. You can't have a heaven and hell even. So it gave me the perfect you know, opposites to be able to say, oh, this isn't about God. This is about a limited perspective. And when we have a limited perspective, we get confused. You know, if I look at um, a ball and on one side of it it's red and I hold it with the red towards me and the other side is green and you're looking at the ball, you're going to say it's a green ball. And I'm going to say, no, it's a red ball. And we could go all day. It's definitely a green ball. It's definitely a red ball. But if we scooch back and we come to the other side, we'll see it's both a red and a green ball. It's not that we were wrong before, it's that we had a limited perspective. And so when someone says you have to follow the Quran, you have to follow the Bible, you have to follow whatever, it's because they have a limited perspective. And how beautiful to be able to not judge the people who judged me anymore, right? Because that was on my spiritual journey where I was stuck. Was I was expanding, but I still was saying the Christians are bad or my parents are bad or whoever, the government is bad.
Blame.
Yes. And that was keeping my limited perspective. And so until I could see their innocence as well as my own, I was always going to be trapped.
You know, you described the very that two opposite sides, and I really like it. You know the I someone is shouting on behind. I don't know. Can you hear that?
They're saying, yes, yes, this is such a good topic.
I don't know. Someone, I don't know who's shouting, guys. I really don't know. But anyway, I hope so nobody died there. I'm sorry. That's was a
Let's
bad
say
joke.
it's the angels are cheering for
Yeah,
us.
the angels are cheering for us. It's a great episode going on. But you know what you describe about the someone is enjoying maybe. So what you describe about the two sides, and I like to say this very importantly, the existence contains both sides. All the things in this world contain duality. If there is a god, there is an atheist. There, but the problem is, people who do not believe in a god and people who believe in a god, they all the problem is they believe. They don't know anything. So they keep fighting. The Christians fight with the Muslim fight with the Christians, and then they both fight with the atheists, and the atheists fight with all everybody. But the problem is they both are afraid. They both are afraid of something. The
There you
atheist
go.
is afraid in that sense that if there is a God, that means there is a heaven and hell. And the
Yes.
Christians are afraid because if they not do what the Bible says, that means they are going to hell. Their life
Yes.
is small, mundane, 100 years, 200 years life. And what after that? Oh, the permanency, heaven, residentship they want. So they are greedy. And that's what they're
Yeah.
seeking, a security. We
Yes.
created religion just because we want security. It was never
Yes.
meant to be. There is no
Yeah.
reason religions need to be in this world. They are
Mm-hmm.
there just to
Mm-hmm.
destroy, just to manipulate,
Control.
but they were not meant to be this is first thing. No prophet has ever come to destroy. The destruction has been done by the priest. The destruction has been done by the individuals who were exploited, who tried to exploit people to control. And the Romans used Christianity as a very good way to control people. We
Yeah.
know it, everybody
Yeah.
knows. The Britishers uses it. That's the colonial history. We can go on and on about it. But
Mm-hmm.
my theology is simple here. The existence contains both sides. So even the wrong
Yes.
and the right is right. Even the wrong
Yes.
is right because it
Yes.
contains there, and it can take you there. And this is
Yes.
has to be understood. So even atheist can reach to where you reached, and
Yes.
even a theist can reach to where you reach, because it does
Yes.
not have this discrimination. It is open, all
Yes.
doors to everybody, just if you are open.
And we're all going there to the oneness either way. So I could live my whole life in separation and judgment, and I will come to the same place that I came, right? So you can't mess it up. That's the innocence, right? You can't get it wrong. You are going to be a part of the journey to the oneness, because I believe that our souls are programmed to pull us there. Maybe it doesn't happen in this life. Maybe it doesn't happen in the next 1,000 lives, but you're going there. We're all going there.
Eventually.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the greatest thing about the thing about humanity is that everyone is capable to be a Jesus. Everyone is
Yes.
capable to be a Buddha. Nobody is like, okay, only this person is capable. No, that is not the case. Everybody is as equal to you are, and not no one is inferior here. Not even a plant is inferior to you. You don't know because
No.
you believe to. This is the ego, right? We want to consider ourselves this one. And
Yes.
with Christianity, Islam, or any big religion like the Hindus also, the thing is why they keep saying that we are, they want to portray that subjectively that they follow the greatest religion. That's why they keep
Mm-hmm.
saying this is the true religion, this is the true God. Why? Because they want to say that, hey, look, I am in the best religion in the world, I am in the truth, and you are living in the fake
Yeah.
religion, you're believing
Yeah.
in a false thing, and I am. So he wants to increase his ego, and that is the purpose of his religion. He does not know any single thing about what is religion or dharma. He does not. He just follows a mundane thing and accepts everything. This is not true religion at all.
And
We
like
might
you said,
disagree.
it's from fear. It's from wanting to say, I'm right so that I can feel a little bit more safe. Because if I'm right, maybe I won't be punished, or maybe I won't be unimportant and forgotten about. And that's why the innocence is so important to me, and the acceptance. The things that happen in our life, they happen. Whether we think they're good or bad, whether we think we're learning lessons or not, here we are. And I certainly can tell you that if you hate everything you've been through, you're going to be miserable, 100%. But if you choose to accept it, you get a fresh start and you get to find meaning and joy. It's always a possibility.
The thing I have said always, and I will still stay this, your inner voice is always speaking. It is
Mm.
always trying to give that message to you in some way. But if you keep suppressing that message, slowly and slowly that voice gets lesser and lesser.
Yeah.
And it shuts down eventually. If it is still there, but it is
It'll be
very
still
shut
be
down.
there.
It is very, very shut down. And the moment you start hearing it, everything changes.
Ah,
Everything is happening for you, or everything. And all the great mystics have said this. And I think I'll go with the, because we are talking about Christianity, you came from there, I'll go with the Jesus verse in the Bible. Ask and ye shall be given. I hope he said that, not other one, but I
he
think he
did.
said
He
that.
did. He
So
did.
he did in the Bible, that ask and it shall be given. It's a very significant verse, signifies, not because it
Mm.
is Jesus saying this. This is just meaning, as everybody said that, Buddha said it
Mm-hmm.
anyway, because the existence is listening actively,
Mm-hmm.
and you are communicating. That's why everyone has said don't self-hate, because it is,
Yeah.
it is going there, it is hurting
Yeah.
you. And one more thing before we move on to the next question, I say this again: you can hurt somebody else, he can defend. But if you hurt yourself, who will defend inside? There is nobody to defend.
Mm.
You can hurt somebody, he has a sword, he has his self to defend, because he's in, but you cannot defend yourself. If you hurt yourself, nobody's there to defend inside. Only you are. So please don't.
Mm.
Accept.
Yeah.
Accept. And
Yeah.
and let's move to the next question. And I would like you to explain it in a very simple manner, because I don't know
Okay.
it myself, to be honest.
Okay.
Could you explain what is the safe and sound protocol, which is
Yeah.
SSP? What the hell is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. So just like you pointed out a few moments ago, we all have this wisdom inside of us, right? It may get very quiet, but it never goes away. And when you start to listen to it, amazing things can happen in your life, because it is the true source of wisdom, and it will support you and guide you. So what the safe and sound protocol is a set of music that has frequencies that are filtered out, so that the speech sound frequencies, the sound of human voice, is what is gradually the main what's coming through in the music. So people listen to it in a one-to-one session like what we're doing right now. They listen to this music, and as they go through, their vagus nerve, which is a part of the autonomic nervous system, which goes down the auditory pathway, is stimulated in such a way that we increase the nervous system's flexibility. Because for many of us, because of not listening to that inner wisdom, which is also the function of the nervous system, is that inner wisdom to say, hey, this looks dangerous, or hey, it looks like you're safe right now. And that has evolved for millions of years, right? To filter through like all of the history of your personal history and your personal genealogy to say, hey, popcorn means somebody's about to be killed, or because it's just correlations, right? So our nervous system becomes very rigid when it spends so long looking for danger. And so what this listening protocol does is it um, actually passively increases the flexibility of the nervous system so that it opens back up to possibilities of safety instead of only looking for danger in the world. And then in the sessions, we have a conversation with that inner wisdom, and I call it the body dialogue. And we ask those sensations that arise. So maybe I get a little nausea, or maybe I get a little shaky, or maybe I get a little sweaty as I'm listening. And we ask that, what do you have to share with us? And you'd be astonished. The first time that people have a conversation with their self with openness and love, they often just cry because that part of their self is so relieved to be listened to. And then
Finally.
it will tell them the most beautiful things like, I really would like you to take a walk today, or I'd really like you to drink more water, or I need you to um, look at this relationship that you have with your boss that's really hard for you, that you've been ignoring and just pushing through. The body just has all these things. Or when we were little, it was so sad that we weren't allowed to color because someone told us we were a bad artist, right? So can you do some coloring? Like I have a part that always asks for lollipops. It says, I want a lollipop. I said, okay, you can have a lollipop, right? So it's just these beautiful things that come forward, and we start to do what exactly you said, is have a relationship with ourself of respect and trust and kindness. So many of us have been trained to say, you're bad, you're not good enough, you'll never be good enough, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're all these things. And when we start to say, oh, you're just all these little parts of you are just needing attention, needing love, needing support, needing basic things like sleep and water and movement, and we start to have respect for our body starts to communicate with us in such a beautiful, natural way. So we're using the SSP to facilitate this so that people start to be able to have this conversation with themselves. And there's many ways to do that. There's many different modalities that open people up to communicating with their body and with their inner wisdom. And this is just one that I'm using.
And I would also like to add what you said, to the potential benefits. The moment you start listening to it and you start doing what it is saying, and you would know this is right because it's coming from you and there is no denying it
Yes.
is not from someone external. So you
Yes.
know that feeling it is right. And
Yes.
when you start doing those small activities, even the
Mm,
small activities, you would see slowly how a life is transforming because you're
mm,
fixing the patterns, you're
that's right.
completing the incompletions. And the
That's right.
moment the incompletions and the things are completed, everything happens whatever you want.
Yes.
It goes your
Yes.
way because you're completing your old patterns, and it could be from this lifetime, some other lifetime, if you believe in
Yes.
them. But even if you do not, it fixes a lot of patterns that you
That's right.
developed unconsciously and you
That's
need to
right.
get rid of. And the
That's
existence
right.
is trying, and that way, am I right? I think you
That's
know
right.
much more than me, but I know.
Yes. Yes. And the other piece that is so beautiful is that when we are expecting attack, when we are expecting a threat, we are living in the defense, and the defense part is in this lower brain. This lower brain is what lizards have, okay? Reptiles. It does not have expanded consciousness. It does not have, access to compassion or understanding or language even. And so many people move through their life operating just from this lower brain. They don't have the tools to have intimacy with themselves or with other people. And what happens? War, right? If I only think there is a possibility of threat, then all I can see is threat and I have to defend. If I'm able to support myself through nervous system regulation, which is embedded into every faith-based tradition, breath work, movement like yoga, tai chi, qigong, meditation, vocalization like chanting, singing, if I move myself through what's called the
Rise,
amygdala,
rise.
and it's a physiological process. It's actually the amygdala blocks off access to the frontal lobe where you can access those qualities of compassion and spirituality. So if we are stuck, all we have to use is these ancient technologies of breath work and movement and vocalization and meditation to open the amygdala, allow ourselves access to our frontal lobe, and then we can expand into seeing the oneness and have compassion and connection
That's
and
what the
understanding.
mystics have called the third eye, basically that
It's
expansion of here, this part
that's
is this.
that's all it
and
is.
and that's all it is, not a
All
physical
it
thing
is.
here. That's all it is.
Yeah,
And the great thing that these ancient gurus or yogis understood the meaning, and they told us these methods so we can rise. They were not religious methods to say,
that's
okay,
right.
we have to. This was to
Just
show
how
you
to
the
use this
reality.
technology.
you know it is very simple,
It
but you
is.
have to have the intention. Without it,
That's
it is
right.
not possible. So intention is very important. you know
Yes.
because I have said this, I think it's in the Quran, but I cannot exactly remember in the verse. But it is that Allah, or the God, the divine, is always hearing. It knows
Yeah.
you before you come. It
That's
knows
right.
after you go. So it knows
That's right.
everything. So it knows your intention every moment, and still it wants to hear you. Still it
That's
is
right.
open. Still it is interested. Still it is fully
That's
interested
right.
to hear every word, even if it knows what you're going to say.
Yes.
It is open.
Yes.
That is the
Yes.
beauty. But let's move to something else. And this is very interestingly, you recently been a part of what you call that finder life coach
Uh-huh.
training. And
Yes.
how has that training influenced your coaching style? Because I feel you would be such a great coach from what you speak on. Like, you're an excellent speaker, I
Oh,
believe. But
thank you.
what are these essential aspect of self does it focus on, that training that you went
Yes.
through?
Well, I love the construct that they use, which is that we have an essential self and a social self. And the social self is doing what it thinks is right, or maybe what it thinks is wrong, but it's worried about what the society has to say, right? And then the essential self is what we've been touching on. It's that inner wisdom that guides us. And when we're living, most of us, from the social self, we feel very constricted, right? It's the opposite of that expansiveness. It's the constriction into I have to make people like me. I have to follow the rules. I have to be acceptable. I have to make money. I have to blah, 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 right? So coming back to the essential self pairs beautifully with the nervous system work, because the nervous system is a great way to tap into that essential self. And we're not able to see our true self when we're scared, right? So just a very minimum, if you're scared, you're here. You have no capability of seeing any truth, right? Because your reticular activating system is gonna find something that's dangerous no matter what.
the I'm sorry to interrupt, but this came to me right now. The most idiotic thing to think is that when love happens, fear comes in. When love
Yes.
actually happens, fear goes away, and freedom and rebelliousness comes in to
Yeah.
just do it. More
Yes.
courage rather
That's
than
right.
fear.
That's right. Once that's the best thing about my overdose, was that I was like, well, there's nowhere to go from here. I have nothing to prove anymore because I've failed so much, and I lost the family, lost the community, anybody I knew before that. So now I have nothing to lose, which is the best freedom, right? But most of us won't accept that freedom without having our life destroyed. We'll only do it if it's our life is destroyed. So this wayfinder method is to invite people to look at and explore the possibility. This says possibility, you can't quite see it. To explore the possibility of that freedom without having to have your life, destroyed, which some people will come to coaching after their life is destroyed, right? Come to spirituality. But the essential self, coming back to the essential self, there's many ways that we can do that. One of the primary ways is that body dialogue. So I've learned a lot about using the body as a guide, to get information from the body. Ask the body what it wants, ask the body what's going on with it, ask the body where the sensations are arising. That word dis-ease, is framed that way because it's a lack of ease somewhere in the body. And when we talk to the body, it has a lot to tell us about how to correct that. So it's a beautiful framing. And there's also a big focus in my work on limiting beliefs, or those lies that we tell ourselves that keep us stuck. And I've learned a lot from Byron Katie, who does the work about self inquiry and freeing ourselves from those limiting beliefs. So, yeah, there's so many tools and influences, and I'm so grateful for them.
You mentioned following Brian Katie, that's what it is, and
Yeah,
and the work.
yeah.
Uh, you know, and for those unfamiliar, can you briefly explain what the work is and what, like in that sense, what it has brought relief to your life? Because I feel it has done greatly contribute to what you are doing. So I want to know a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest pieces that has given me connection with the absolute innocence. Because the framing that Byron Katie gives is that if we are acting in any sort of violence towards ourselves or other people, it is only, it can only be because we are confused and we are not in connection with the oneness. Otherwise, we would be incapable of violence. If I'm connected to the understanding that you are me and I am you and we are divine, then I am not going to be capable of being violent towards you or towards myself. If I am being violent, it's because I'm confused. And she has this beautiful phrase: if I was thinking and believing what you were thinking and believing, I would do the same thing 100% of the time. So if I look at, let's say, for example, my church leaders who told me, you're going to go to hell, you can't be a part of the church anymore. If I was believing and thinking what they were believing and thinking, I would have told myself the same thing, right? So in that sense, there's no one who is to blame, and everyone is just operating according to what they have.
Everyone is actually operating through this, not through this. They are operating through this, and this is false. This is
Yes.
conditioned. This is has been conditioned from the day we have been born. In Christianity, from the day you have been born, you have been told that you are in the
Yeah.
wrong place,
Yeah.
your wrong body. Every time when I hear this, it pains me so much. Forget the gay and everything. This thing pains me so much that from the very beginning you're being told that you are a sin. Then
Yeah.
how can
Original
you
sin.
grow the original sin? And this is the most thing that I have always disagree to, and I will never accept this. Never, never, never.
It's a really great tool to control people, though. And if what you're thinking and believing is, I need to control someone to survive, then that's a great tool, right? So it's just about
Manipulation.
that perspective.
Yeah.
And so I really, I love Byron Katie because if you listen to her do the work, which the work is basically just 4 questions, it's a form of self inquiry. So you take a painful thought and you bring it through these 4 questions and you look at what other possibilities. Are there any other truths there? And you put yourself in the shoes of the other person, so that you realize when you're judging the other person, you're judging yourself, and that ultimately we're all innocent. So it's simple but very profound. And if you listen to her, you really hear she has reached the ability to not judge anybody, She just has such compassion for everyone. Whatever they say, she's like, just love, 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 love. When I did the work with her, I was resisting, and I was really challenging her and saying I disagreed, and she was just loving me and loving me. And at the end she sang to me, do you know that song, You Are So Beautiful? Do you know that song? It's an old song, but she was singing to me. She just really, she's pure love. She has freed herself from judgment through questioning, through just every thought that comes through her saying, is that true? What is that thought? What Let me look at that from 12 different perspectives so that I see, oh, maybe the ball's not red. Maybe the ball's not green. Maybe the ball's not a ball.
You know, I like to add about what you talked about. I don't know her. Okay, very honestly, I don't know her. I haven't heard her like heard her talks, been in her presence, so I don't know. But I can say one thing, that such people, you met one of them, they are not just loving, they are just love. That word, they are just that. They are not anymore that name, that person. They are love, and the moment you are in their presence,
Yeah,
you can feel it. It
yeah,
is just like this magnetic pull. You can see it, it's hovering around it.
yeah,
They're just, it's so much that it's coming out of their body. The body is
yeah,
full of love, and it's
yeah.
going to other people, and the moment you're around such people, you are transformed. You are
Hmm.
taken to the next level. And that's why I think, we say in India, at least, where we say the guru is so necessary, because he takes you from here to here, you know
Yeah,
and the other priest, he takes you from here to here. The priest takes you from here to here, the guru takes you here from here, because the priest is only concerned for his benefit, and the guru is
yeah.
concerned for your benefit. And the
Mm.
great thing, let me tell you, a real guru, not a fake one, a real one will always take all the junk out from you, so you can fill yourself. He will not fill you.
Yeah,
A
that's
teacher can fill
right.
you, but the guru will take everything out of you and scatter
That's
your beliefs
right.
and say, this is it, and
Mhm.
now pick it up. Now accept what you want to accept. This is the truth.
Mm.
And one question that I think, a very significant question, and I cannot answer this, maybe perhaps right now, at least in this point of life, that you are a parent. I'm not a parent in that sense. So how has being a parent, it is such a transformative experience for
Mm.
everybody around the world, and painful sometimes, in the sense, oh my god, now having a kid and growing him, it's a lot of trouble. It's a lot of trouble, I know that. Okay, actually, I'm a child, and I know how much trouble my mother goes through, so every day, growing me up, so I know that. So how has being a parent influenced your experiences, perspective? What lessons have you learned through parenting?
Oh my goodness, too many to describe. I say parenting is one of the quickest spiritual development curriculum there is, because you are faced with your powerlessness. You are faced with all of the ways that your judgment, your confusion, just totally alters somebody else's life. You cannot be a perfect parent. It is impossible. You can lie to yourself and try to be like a good worker or a good I don't know, partner. But when you see a little child crushed because of something you've said, or a little child go on a path of not trusting the world because of a fear you put into them, you see how very, very powerful we are in each other's lives, and how just an instant can alter another human's life because you decided, or you were confused, and out came violence instead of love. So you see your true power, which is horrifying on one level, but really empowering on another, right? Because it makes you question, it makes me question every interaction, and want to slow down and move much more slowly through how I speak to myself and how I speak to everyone else and what decisions I make, because I see how my child has been affected by who I am, and how everyone you can't save them from pain. You see the violence of other people, you see them. My child is now 12, and so the desire to be accepted, the desire to be good comes out so strongly in adolescence, and it's so heartbreaking. I want to say, you don't have to be good, you don't have to be accepted, but I can't tell anyone how to skip that journey. You have to live through it, and I have to accept that pain is a part of this experience when I can't save my child from the pain, and when I can't save my child from experiencing my own flaws, my own confusion. So it's wild and it's heartbreaking, and it, it's so blissful as well to be a part of
It's
that.
hard to be in a spiritual zone and grow up a kid, and seeing him go to the same troubles that you have gone to, but then realizing that this is necessary for his journey and his
Yes,
individual journey. And
yes,
one thing that
yes.
is very important, that you have not chosen to bring him this world. He has chosen you to come to this
Mm.
world. If you have not been chosen, nobody comes. He has come. He has chosen you as a vehicle to be and bring his creativeness and his gifts. And you are just a witness to it. So, and the moment
Yeah,
parents start controlling their kids, they
yeah,
kill their individuality.
yeah,
It's good to guide him. It's good to give him
yeah,
lessons. Very good, and it's very necessary to be a parent. To be sometimes strict, to that is also necessary, really, but to control him and dictate him at every step of the moment, and save him from everything, just shows that he will slowly become cowherd, and
yeah,
also you will kill his individuality, because
yeah,
he would become robotic just like
yeah.
you were. And in such a so our society is such a like that. If a parent has gone to some pain, he wants his children to go through the same. This is how idiotic the society is. He says, if his marriage has not satisfied him, he says, you want to have to get married. Why he has to get, what have you gained from getting married? What but like I say this, what have you gained that you want your kids to be married? What have you gained from this kid? Even let him decide, right?
Yeah,
Let him breathe, and we don't even let them breathe freely. We want everything under our control.
yeah.
Every moment the parents want. And I heard this thing. We think our kids are kids. So you keep saying, he's my son, he's my daughter. But he's not your daughter, he's not your
No.
son, because the very moment he does something wrong in the society, you say, this is not my son. Sorry, this is not my daughter. This is not my daughter. The moment that love is gone, because he did something that displeased your ego, now he's not your
Yeah,
son, now he's not
yeah,
your daughter. Unless if he is really your son and daughter, you would go to the very hell to fight from him,
yeah,
save him, not
yeah.
judge him. Because if he's queer, if he's gay, if he's whatnot, you would accept him, not pity. No, this is not love then.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been extraordinary, and we talk so much about, what do you think? What do you feel? And no other part of my child's world is reflecting that opportunity back. So the teachers say, just follow the rules. All the other adults, just follow the rules. And I'm always like, please don't follow the rules. Check with
Break
yourself.
it.
What do you think? What do you feel? You can't mess up. But that society is so strong, and that social self, I really see it as such a challenge. And I have, another layer of, I'm divorced. And so my kid spends half the time with the other mom and half the time with me. And that gave me the heartbreaking opportunity to see, I cannot identify with being mom. I cannot identify with being a partner or being a child, because all of those can be taken away from me. And when identity is taken away, if I feel lost, then what do I have? So the parenting has been, I think, the most
Enlightening.
painful.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
painful and enlightening.
yeah, painful and enlightening, because it was the kind of identity that I was like, well, you can't take this one away from me. And then it was taken away, And so I have these big stretches of time where I'm just alone, and I'm just no longer can I busy myself in, oh, I need to take care of my kid. I need to do this for my kid. And I'm important because my kid needs me. Now, when I'm faced with just myself, I have to say, okay, who am I actually? What is this for? If I'm not here just to serve someone or be a role or to do good, then what is it? And that's where the spiritual opportunity comes. So I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to have a kid, but it's been wild.
Yes, it's definitely wild. And because you've been a coach, and I ask this to most of the coaches that I encounter in anyhow, through my podcast is when I meet them or some other way, you know, do you have any favorite stories of transformation, or if I have to say the inspiration that have you witnessed or maybe been part of, that you feel you would like to share today to the listeners?
Yes, yes. Well, it is an extraordinary transformation that I see every day
Apart
in
from
every one
yours.
of them. Yes, in all my clients' lives. I just was telling one of my clients yesterday, to be able to be with someone when they reconnect with themselves and they have that uh, remembering. The word remembering is like putting back together. Dismembering is taking the body apart, right? And the remembering, that putting back together of their true self and gaining access to that, when you get to be a witness to that, it is almost more transformative than it is to experience it, because you see that we have everything that we need. The job of a coach is not to teach someone or fix someone or guide someone. It's to create an opportunity to reflect back to that person, you have everything you need. You just need to take the time to look back inside yourself, and there will come out. Like just yesterday, I was having someone, and we often use we talk about these parts or this wisdom, we'll give it a name of an animal or an object. And they had these two little cute animals that were talking to each other and working out something that had been a really lifelong struggle for them, and to realize that it came from this little animal that was terrified and didn't trust themselves. And then this wise other animal came forward and showed them so graciously and without any pressure or judgment how to, they wrapped them in a blanket and comforted them and guided them. And they did this all themselves, within themselves. And for me, it's like so fun because I never know what's going to happen. I'm like watching a fabulous movie, and they're creating and experiencing and coming back to themselves and finding that wisdom that they were looking for. And to be a part of that is just extraordinary. I've had
To see
people
the
who
growth, to see that.
yeah, people who were, you know, feeling like dying, who were suicidal, who then reconnect with their life in a beautiful way and emerge from that. I've had people who were unable to go to work because they were so anxious and so unable to be around other people, who are able to then go on and do fabulous things in their work. It's so much is possible. That's why I have this word, possibility, because when we get stuck and we think it's not possible, that's when we can't get anywhere. But when if we're willing just to open up a tiny bit, even if that tiny bit is just saying, I will ask for help, I will meet with a coach, then that little listening to your inner self that says there is a possibility, that opens up the whole world. And it's just such an honor to be a part of, truly. I'm so grateful.
That's a very, if I have to use the word, not interesting, fascinating story
Yes.
to hear, and might have inspire a lot of listeners who are listening to us today. But as we are wrapping this up, I like to talk about this before, and that's why I waited till the end before I talk about this. I saved the last thing for the end. I'm not sure if it's the best thing to ask in the end, but okay, let's go for
Okay,
it.
let's go.
Your book, which is called
Uh,
it is called Holy Shit. That is what
holy
it's
shit.
called. So, and it's really intriguing the title. Can you give us the glimpse into the themes of what that really book is about? Because the title is very pretentious, and what messages you explore in that book.
Yeah. Oh, that book is such a gift to me. I was doing a 10-day meditation, and the book just fell. I can't take credit for it. But the concept I was struggling was I was wanting to be so compassionate with everyone that I was allowing people to put a lot of their shit onto me. When we're in pain, most of us either take all of that shit, that pain, and we throw it at everyone else because we're like, I'm going to drown in the shit. So I need to throw it. Right. And then some of us, we throw it at ourselves. Right. And we bury ourselves and give up. So the idea that came was inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Buddhist teacher who passed away. And he says, no mud, no lotus. So in the lotus pond, the lotus grows out of the mud through the water and comes out a beautiful lotus flower on top. But it's only possible because of the compaction of the mud and the dead bugs and the decomposing plants. All of that is pressurized by the water, and the sun comes through in the perfect way, and it grows this beautiful flower. So the challenges of life in that context are that mud. But for me, my revelation was, when we take all of that shit and we do not put it under the pressure of the spiritual growth, when we do not cultivate it, like when they take shit or cow poop, if it just puts it in a pile, it does not become fertilizer. They have to compost it. And it is these spiritual technologies that allow us to compost our shit so that we can grow something beautiful and give back out of that. But if we just leave it as manure, it won't grow anything. And if you don't compost your shit and you throw it at me and I take it from you, I'm actually limiting your growth. You may never decide to compost it. That's your business. But if I accept your shit from you, then I'm limiting your spiritual growth opportunity. And that was invaluable for me because I was living in a lot of codependency and I was taking a lot of shit from other people. And I thought I was being compassionate, but I was actually limiting their growth by not saying, hey, I
This is
love you so
crap.
much that
This is
this is
crap.
your shit. I want you to have this because this is for your growth.
Being honest.
I can't grow from your shit. I can only grow from mine. So I'm going to take care of mine and I'm going to say no thank you to yours so that you can have the opportunity. Again, you may not take the opportunity, but I want you to have it. So I'm going to say no. And that's the where the concept
That
came
was a
from, that
very
it's
deep, I think,
holy.
insight realization that you had, and very significant, I would say. And a lot of times, I think we take so much from others, and we feel it's compassionate, as you're right, very right. And then you realize this is nonsense. Why should I
Yeah,
hear it? I should call it out, and it will help him. It is not some rudeness; it is helping to that
it
person,
is a
not just to me.
grace.
Both parties are being
That's
helped.
right.
Because it will let him know, and it also significant does not mean that if you are calling it shit, it is shit. Maybe you don't have the right understanding of what he's saying. Maybe he's right
Yeah.
inherently, we are wrong. But
Yeah.
anyway, we have to point it out rather than keep hearing and agreeing to him, because this will give him that false sense of think that okay, others also agree to what I think, and that will
Yeah.
give boost to some wrong notions or thoughts that might be just inherently wrong and might lead him to some other darkness. You never know because you approved
Yeah.
it. And
That's
this is
right.
very important and a very deep realization. But as we wrap this up, any final tips or advice to the listeners or the people who are listening to us?
I just want people to have the opportunity to know that if you feel like there's no possibility in your life, if there's no hope, if you're LGBT, or if you are, having some sort of rejection from your family for some other reason, if you're struggling financially, if you feel like you have, no relationships and you're lonely, whatever it is that's making you feel like there's no hope, I I want you to know that there is, and that everyone has access to it. And that one of the first things we can do is to come back to, like you said before, come back to that wisdom inside of you and just try meeting it for the first time. Just say, what if I'm not the problem? What if I am okay? And what if there is possibility? What if everyone can grow and be a contribution to this thing that we're doing? Because I really believe that each and every person on this planet is precious and innocent, and total
Capable.
possibilities are there for them. Yep.
Capable.
Yep. No
And
matter what.
no matter what, and there is hope, don't lose it,
That's
and
right.
try it at the last. Don't do what
That's right.
Gazit did, try to kill herself. Fight it and fight till the last. If you die, but die while fighting. Don't die like a cowherd. Fight it.
Well, or if you can't, then that can be used too. There's no wrong path, because the right path for me was to surrender into I can't do it. And I wouldn't change that,
Yes,
and
if you cannot do it, then let it go. Then
yeah,
surrender it and let it happen. You don't have to take the burden all by yourself. You don't need to take all these burdens because we have taken so much on ourselves and we cannot carry it. And there is no need to take those burdens. Just leave it there. Existence is ready to take it. It's so big, it's so vast, it's all ready to take your burden,
that's
but you
right.
are not ready to leave. You have to leave it, and it is ready, and it's
Yeah.
good time. Maybe you are here to listen to this and this might be that hammer to you, but
And
a
if you
very
think nobody loves you, then you need to email me and I will tell you I love you.
definitely I'll drop your email then. But a lot of this thing comes down to practices, practical,
Yes.
facilitate practical growth, and a
Yes.
lot of this requires meditation, yoga, and I would also say very importantly food diet, because you have to eat good to thoughtfully good and act and meditate consciously. And if somebody is trying to begin meditation, all of that, as this is a Luvo original podcast, and this is also being broadcast on the Luvo app, where you can talk to such people like, I mean, not Gazit is not there, but obviously people like Gazit who are spiritually very far in meditation and yoga. You can talk to them for free and learn from them in this within this app. And also it has free guided meditation, guided music that will help you. And if you're trying to begin your journey, like if anybody, this will facilitate that anyway, and for free, everything for free, and it will help you grow. Because when you're trying to make a habit, this is the companion you need, I feel. And I'm not trying to promote it, but very honestly, when I started the journey, sometimes you need
You
guidance,
need
right?
support. Yeah.
Support. So the virtually, we can have these apps that facilitates that growth. And at the same time, another thing that the app has is this podcast that you're listening to right now, which helps so much. And this kind of contents makes the Luva very distinctive, I think Gazit Gaya. And I know, how do I say your the other name? I can say the Gazit, but when I read in here, the spelling to me in my language is Chaya. And you, how
Right.
uh, you know
It's Hebrew, so it's like a
yeah.
throat clearing sound.
So how do you say it? Can you say it once?
Yes,
Gazit
Gazit
and
Chaya.
Gazit
Gazit Chaya.
Kaya. Gazit Kaya. Okay. I'll use the Chaya. Let me just mispronunciate it,
Gazit
please. Please.
Chaya. Yeah.
Gazit Chaya. Okay, I'll
You
I'll
can
use
say it
that.
like an H. You can say it like an
H.
H.
Hmm.
Gazit Chaya
Gazit
if you
Haya.
can't.
Gazit
Yeah.
Haya. That's
Yeah.
easier. Okay, good one. So thank you so much for being today on the
uh
show, Gazit Haya. For today on the show, Gazit Haya. You've been incredibly, like, you're. I was kind of surprised, and I don't know. I had this feeling. I would say this from the very beginning, from when we scheduled, that this is going to be something very meaningful, and it did turn out to be like that. Maybe you had that feeling too, and this was very enlightening today. And I think I found a lot of value from what you said. I think our listeners must have found a lot of value. So thank you so much for giving your incredible time and insights to the listeners that will help them. And thank you so much again for being on the show
I'm
today.
so grateful. Thank you for all you're doing and for giving these beautiful resources to people, because we do need support.
Welcome to Luvo. This is your home screen, giving you access to all features like steps counter, water intake, mood check, heart rate, sleep, and gratitude. You can also monitor your steps, heart rate, and sleep by connecting the app with your smartwatch. Experience live meditation, yoga, and healthy eating, all of which is coming soon. Download our free app and start living your best life.